Hello and welcome to another historic video. Today we're checking out an updated version of the monoblue affinity deck, which has gotten a few new cards thanks to the Jumpstart expansion. One of those cards is Thoughtcast, which has affinity for artifacts, so costs 1 less to cast for each artifact we control, so we can routinely cast this for just a single blue mana to draw 2 cards, so that's a pretty good rate. And the reason we can often cast it for so cheap is because most of the lands in our mana base are also artifact lands, so they also contribute towards affinity, and that's where some of the other new additions come in handy. Seat of the Synod by far the most important one as a blue artifact land, and this is untapped compared to the previous cycle of tapped artifact lands. I'm still playing the Silver Bluff Bridge just to have a higher density of blue artifact lands, and then we've got the Vault of Whispers as the only other artifact land we've gotten alongside a Seat of the Synod, so just another land that counts as an artifact for affinity, even though we don't really need black mana in this deck. And then Darksteel Citadel is an indestructible version of those artifact lands. And then we've got a couple islands, since we do still need access to blue mana. Otawara also very important as another blue source that can often also give us a bit of interaction. And then the goal of the deck is to play both Kozilek's Unsealing and Simulacrum Synthesizer. The Synthesizer lets us scry 2 when it enters, and whenever we cast an expensive artifact, we'll get to make a construct token that gets bigger the more artifacts we control, whereas the Kozilek's Unsealing provides the card advantage. Whenever we cast one of our 7 mana creatures, we'll get to draw 3 cards, and a lot of our 7 drops we can cast for free. In the case of Mirror Enforcer, if we have 7 or more artifacts in play. Same with the Frogmere Enforcer. This one also has Prototype, so occasionally we can cast it for 1 red mana to make a 2/2, but then it's not going to draw cards with Unsealing, instead making a pair of spawn tokens. And then there's Thought Monitor, which we can cast for a single blue mana potentially, drawing 2 cards when it enters, and potentially even more with Kozilek's Unsealing. And then rounding out the deck, we do need some cheap artifacts we can deploy, so we can enable our affinity cards, and that's where Ornithopter can come in handy, especially good alongside Springleaf Drum, so we can tap the Ornithopter for mana right away, so it's basically free. Then we also have Tormod's Crypt, which also doubles up as Graveyard Hate to stop some of the graveyard combo decks in the format. And then Mox Amber has a few legends to go with it, so it can also generate us extra mana, maybe cast some of our 3 drops on turn 2 already, although we can also get there with Ornithopter plus Springleaf Drum. And then we have 2 copies of Tamiyo, which can attack making a clue token, so that's more artifacts for affinity. And we can pretty easily transform Tamiyo into the Seasoned Scholar in this deck by just drawing a few cards, even with Thoughtcast is good enough. And then Tamiyo can get back Thoughtcast or shrink down opposing creatures. And then we also have 2 copies of Emery, which we can usually cast for a single blue mana as well, milling 4 cards, and then potentially recasting artifacts out of our graveyard. So that's pretty much our entire deck, and then we also get to free roll Gigantha as our companion, but I don't think I've cast that one very often. So yeah, that's our deck. Now let's jump into some games and see how the deck does. Okay, we're on the play. We have Seat, and then Ornithopter Springleaf Drum to set up a turn 2 synthesizer. I'll try it. Don't have to play Ornithopter now, since we can still tap it even though it's got Summoning Sickness, so we don't expose it to removal. Familiar, so a sacrifice deck could be the infinite combo variant. Found Kozilek's Unsealing, probably still Synthesizer to get more artifacts in play for affinity. And then Citadel would help. Tormod's Crypt could also be relevant. Graveyard Hate to stop the combo. So probably want the Citadel in case something bad happens to Ornithopter. And then turn 4 we might be able to make a lot of constructs in 1 turn. Opponent already has Samwise. Alright, so I might regret not keeping the Crypt on top now if our opponent can already combo off. Yeah, cannot cast this for 2 mana. I guess what I can do is cast this for 1, make 2 tokens, and then cast this to actually draw, so I guess that works out. Just in case they already had it all lined up. And then we can keep going. So yeah, the secret prototype mode on Enforcer coming in handy. and a Tormod script. So that should prevent him from hopefully going off with the familiar. They actually had the 3-card combo lined up. So now what happens, their opponent gets a food, they sack familiar, and then they would want to get it back, but in response we can exile it. So that should stop the combo here. So we don't want to respond to this, because then they would just get the familiar back. But now we can respond with Tormod scripts, exile familiar. No more combo. Yeah, if they had an extra food token, they might have been able to activate again and keep going. But yeah, that's why Tormod script can be so valuable in the historic metagame. On to the next one. Alright, we're on the draw. We have a decent hand thanks to the Springleaf Drum. Setting up our 3-drop on turn 2. Opponent's got the turn 1 elves, however. So, yeah, I guess we don't have to play the island. And then between Tamiyo and Emery, Tamiyo promises more artifacts in the future. Emery only does so if we mill some that we can get back. So I think I prefer Tamiyo. And then next turn we can already transform it too. So turn to Old Growth Trolls, it's a Devotion deck as opposed to an Elf deck. Alright, so we could already play the Unsealing. Could also Thoughtcast plus Emery if I play Island. Start by attacking and getting our clue. Yeah, we don't have any 7-drops to combine with Unsealing yet. So it's possible we're better off going Thoughtcast plus Emery.
I will protect this library with my life. I am not defenseless.
And milled a 7-drop. Okay. Tamiyo might be able to buy us a bit of time. Alright, Oddity, so those are probably both going after our Planeswalker. So there's no saving it. That's alright.
There's more to learn elsewhere.
So this turn we're looking at Unsealing. Activate Emery. And get back Enforcer. And now a Thought Monitor. Found our Synthesizer. Do we want to hold some leftovers, or do we make another 4/4? Could keep the Enforcer as a leftover, just so we have more ways to trigger Synthesizer next turn. We've probably done enough. And from this position, worst case scenario, they've got a Nykthos. But otherwise we should be fine. Another Elves. Ooh, and a Boseiju for the Unsealing. Fair enough. At least we've got Thoughtcast for additional card draw. Got another island we can search up. Okay, start with Synthesizer. Keep the Enforcer. And yeah, our opponent has seen enough. We're gonna make lots of constructs, and that's too much for the green deck to handle. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We've got a decent hand for Thoughtcast. Kind of waiting to see what else we draw afterwards, but I'll give it a shot. It's kind of just fun to play a bunch of permanents on turn 1. Draw 2. And not quite what we were hoping for here. Alright, so pass it back. Next turn we can play a 4-4. But that's not all that great by itself. I'll take another Thoughtcast, however. And see where that leads. 2 more Thoughtcasts. You'll love to see it. Should I play a land in case of a Mana Tithe? Didn't seem like they were holding priority. Ooh, nice Unsealing. That's more like it. So even though I could play a 4-4, or actually all 3 4-4s, we may as well wait to draw 3. Put on green-white, and a Sanctum Weaver, so enchantments could mean cards like 9 lives and Solemnity to set up a lock. So we do actually want to put some pressure into play. And then, yeah, I guess I forgot that we wouldn't have free affinity yet. And Mox Amber's legendary, so we'll have to wait another turn here. So, yeah, maybe in hindsight, playing 12 power worth of creatures would have been good enough. The Destiny Spinner's okay. And a Banishing Light goes for the Unsealing, further punishing me for waiting. Alright, I guess it's time for Thought Monitor. Alright, found another Unsealing. Can I wait again? Tough decision. Because yeah, next turn we're definitely guaranteed to cast these all for free afterwards. So I do think I wait. Enchantress's Presence is fine. This now taps for 4. And a Seal from Existence. And what are we exiling? Mox Amber? Please do. Alright, so 3 cards in hand. Still no Solemnity or 9 lives. So we get to play the Unsealing now. And then have some fun. Could also hang on to more of my finishers until I play a Synthesizer first. Start with the Thought Monitor. Can play Springleaf, which plays another Springleaf. Are we afraid of board wipes in this matchup? Maybe. But I think they're more of a prison deck. Alright, I'll hang on to Synthesizers and 1 Enforcer, I guess. And then discard 1 card. Sigil, that's beatable. So that's their eventual finisher. Making 4/4 Angel tokens, but our constructs are bigger. And a Banishing Light. So probably goes for the Unsealing now. Although we do have another one in hand. Might still prefer going for a bunch of Synthesizers. Rest in Peace is fine too. Okay, so start with Synthesizer. Find Unsealing, Tormod Scripts, can bottom. And then, yeah, maybe it's still an Unsealing. And then if I draw a legendary creature, that could set up another Synthesizer. so that's what I'm aiming for. And no legendary creature, but a Thought Monitor. I guess that'll have to do for now. Yeah, I think I'm just unloading here, so if our opponent does play a 9 lives, we can potentially still threaten lethal. I guess we can still tap the Springleaf Drum. Gotta watch out that I don't end up milling myself. Let's see here. So I could play Emery. Tamio would have been better. But if I play Emery, I have 2 Mox Ambers that can still tap for mana. Sure. This will just exile 4 cards. And this makes a blue. This can make a blue. I guess still not quite enough for another synthesizer, since the other Mox Amber got dealt with. Alright, so that might have been pointless. Yeah, may as well just go for broke. 4 cards remain. Finally found our Tamio. But that's no longer going to transform now. Alright. That's my entire hand on the battlefield, pretty much. These can attack. So, if they just have Solemnity or just have 9 lives, we're fine. If they have both, then we're just gonna lose by drawing from an empty library. Although, as I say that, we do have an Odawara in hand, so that one's actually very important. So keep 7. Shouldn't really matter besides Odawara. Opponent's gonna scry first. On bottoms. And there's Sithis for more card draw. And that's okay. Another Sanctum Weaver. I guess it is possible that our opponent can block with their angels to survive. They still haven't tapped Sanctum Weaver, which makes a lot of mana here. And now a Leyline of Sanctity, that's fine. Does draw 2 cards. So how many blockers do we have? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's a 9 lives, so that's a problem. Nine lives itself has hexproof. So now 9 creatures need to connect to win the game. And Destiny Spinner. That's fine. I guess we have to watch out that the angels also don't just kill us. But yeah, now our 34/34 is only good for 1 counter on the 9 lives. So not what we were hoping for. Do I take 8 or do I trade? Could also chump with Tamio, I suppose. And Ornithopter's not doing much for me anymore. So opponent's got 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 blockers, can bounce 1. So 8 blockers, do we have 17 attackers? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, I guess we do. So I don't even need to do anything else, but just in case I miscounted, we may as well play a few more synthesizers out. Alright, and then channel Odawara, bouncing an angel. Can tap our summoning Sig token since they don't block the angels anyway. And attack all out. Alright, let's see what happens. But yeah, that's 7, 8 creatures, and then that should be more than enough going through to win the game through 9 lives. If our opponent did also have Solemnity, then we would have had to bounce the Solemnity. Opponent's fully tapped out. No free spells in Historic like you have in Timeless. With the exception of Pact of Negation, I guess. Emery is equally powerful as a 39/39 construct token in the eyes of 9 lives. So their opponent's coming to the realization. And our opponent explodes. Awesome. On to the next one. Okay, we're on the play. We have a functional hand. Play bridge on 1, and then turn 2. We can play Tamio, Springleaf, Mox Amber, and that'll set up our synthesizer nicely. Alright, Thoughtseize will have a look. Probably takes Tamio. Or they could go for synthesizer if they had a fatal push, for instance. Alright, so in that case, do we want to play anything else out? Could play the Enforcer, which at least with a Springleaf drum sets up synthesizer. Don't hate that. Can keep Mox Amber in hand for now. Shambling Gas, so this looks like the Sacrifice combo deck. Alright, so we can decide between Synthesizer and Thought Monitor. What's the priority here? Probably just presenting lethal. Although, yeah, I think for now I still kind of like the Unsealing. And then next turn we could Thought Monitor to hit some more land drops, even though the Scry from Synthesizer is also helpful there. I'll still Unsealing. Opponent gets in for 2. Another Shambling Gas, that's fine. And a third one. Okay, so yeah, can maybe afford to play it slow since the opponent's hand doesn't seem particularly great. And play Synthesizer before we start drawing. And then second Unsealing is probably overkill. Take 4. And now a Skull Speaker to draw. So yeah, this looks like the Jet Medallion kind of Storm combo deck with a Nightmare. Tamio enables Mox Amber. So play that after we play Mox Amber. And then we can immediately transform it too. And Thought Monitor will draw us quite a few cards. So yeah, we're off to the races with double Mirror Enforcer. Haven't played land for turn yet, so can play another Synthesizer before we keep going. Tormod's Crypt could be relevant, Graveyard Hates. Alright, so we're having fun. And I think that's the end of our turn. Still not bad. Do we want to attack for 2? Sure. And pass it back. Discard 2 cards. So our opponent needs to combo kill us, but they can't get there. Awesome, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Our hand needs a bit of help off the top, but we do have both Unsealing and Synthesizer, a decent number of artifacts. So I'll give it a try. But we won't be doing much in the first 2 turns. Opponent a life gain deck, or maybe Angels. I guess Ornithopter can soak up 1 damage. So it is green-white. Seed of the Synod's good. So play that, and then next turn if we play Vault, we can already Thought Monitor, maybe after playing Moxamber first. Alright, Heliod, so it is an infinite life gain combo deck. And if they have a Scurry Oak in hand, they can already win next turn. And there's not a whole lot I can do about it. So, in case they don't have Scurry Oak, I guess we're looking to close out the game as soon as possible, which probably means Synthesizer over Unsealing. And then Tormod Script isn't really relevant in this matchup, but it is still a free artifact. I guess it might be good enough. So next turn the plan is play Unsealing, can play Monitor, Enforcer. Yeah, I guess we don't really need Tormod Script or Thoughtcast. Would rather find more 7 mana artifacts. Alright, let's see for that. Scurry Oak will do it. Gonna be a tapped Garden. Attack for 1. Sure, I'll take it. Alright, just +1 counter here, so not the most exciting turn. And now we get to potentially combo off. Play the Unsealing. Can start with the Enforcer. In case we need our blue mana for something else, maybe play a legendary creature, which can then set up a Moxamber to keep going. Alright, so just a pair of constructs for this turn it seems. Nope, we've got a Mirror Enforcer to play. So opponent could still go infinite next turn, so can't feel too comfortable here, but sure, I'll play out another Ornithopter and pass a turn. And then discard 4 cards. Lands mostly. A land 5, and there's Scurry Oak. Alright, so opponent must have top decked it, otherwise they would have just won the game last turn. So opponent gets to put infinite +1 counters on the Scurry Oak thanks to Heliod and Veteran. Gain infinite life, make infinite tokens. So technically on Arena there's no such thing as infinite, since you're limited by the number of tokens you can generate and the amount of time you have in your turn. But yeah, for all intents and purposes our opponent has won the game here. Even though we can make much larger constructs, our opponent has infinity squirrels. Technically only 200 on Arena. But yeah, we're not going to waste everyone's time here. GG's, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the play with a fine hand. Turn 1 Tamio. With Thoughtcast we can potentially transform Tamio pretty quickly.
Oh no! I'm late for class!
If we attack we get a clue, which discounts this down to 2 mana. And our opponent's also on an artifact deck. Spellbomb cannot quite bounce Tamio yet. So let's Thoughtcast. Find a Thought Monitor. Still need a 3rd land. Although Tamio can eventually get back Thoughtcast out of the graveyard as well.
Your words.
It's gonna be a Frogmite for 1 mana. We're not playing that one. Alright, Springleaf Drum is basically a free artifact with Ornithopter tapping for mana. So I can play it. I think I do keep plussing here, since we might be able to set up an ultimate. And then just Thoughtcast as is. And then now, with Moxamber, play a Synthesizer. Because yeah, Moxamber also enabled by our Planeswalker, of course. Yeah, that seems good, and then I could still play an Enforcer afterwards. So yeah, these artifact synergies are quite impressive. Got a 9/9 token already, even though our opponent could bounce it. Tamiyo is well protected. Opponent's playing black as well, so getting the most out of the other artifact land. For now, just a Thought Monitor. So the opponent's build might have more interaction, which can be great in some matchups, but they seem less focused on comboing off. And yeah, with the Synthesizer and a Tamiyo, we're just super far ahead. Sweet, on to the next one. Okay, we're on the draw. Tamiyo enabling Moxamber sets up turn 2, 3-drop, which could be great. Opponent on what could be a Charbelcher deck if they're playing the lands with spells on the other half. I guess we don't need to show them the Moxamber yet. Alright, Lateral Wastes points in a different direction. Soul Cleaver, maybe a combo enabler. Either way. Got the Moxamber, which sets up probably Synthesizer first, so we have more affinity. And then I don't need a second Unsealing, I'll take another artifact land. Attack, make a clue. And I'll run out the Tormod scripts. And then next turn we can Unsealing and go off. On turn 3. Opponent had the Boseiju, but played it out. And now a Thief of Existence. Yeah, that's too bad. Blows up our Synthesizer. So we'll need to find a replacement. For now, still gonna attack with Tamiyo. And then we'll be able to transform it here as soon as we draw a few more cards. Could also wait and cast this once we play another Unsealing first, since we might be running low on action otherwise.
Use your words.
Flash Raker's next. Alright, so a nice black-green Eldrazi deck. Play another Unsealing. And keep it going. Drawing 6 cards now. Found our Synthesizer. Can still cast it. May as well play another Springleaf Drum first. And then another Synthesizer on top could be okay in case they blow up another copy. And then probably don't need another Thoughtcast. Finding 7 drops is the priority. Can always get back Thoughtcast with Tamiyo. And we'll just play defense. Alright, is there an infinite combo here that I'm not seeing? This just makes spawn tokens and deals damage. But there might be an infinite combo in there somewhere. Maybe they're playing the 2-mana green Eldrazi. We'll find out. Yeah, there it is, the Brute Scale. So their opponent can cast it. And then can they equip Soul Cleaver? It's 2 mana to equip. So I'm hoping they're 1 mana short here. Because yeah, with a Brute Scale, they could sack a spawn, which then gives it a counter, which makes another spawn, so that's an infinite loop. So they have lethal next turn with a Flash Raker. So it's now our job to try and stop them somehow. So that involves finding our only interaction, which is Otawara. Playing another synthesizer makes more constructs, but doesn't stop the infinite combo. So, yeah, I guess we go digging with Thoughtcast. Although we would get to Scry 2 with another synthesizer, which may be worth it. Can I then still channel Otawara? Yeah, Moxamber makes mana, so we should still be fine. Thought Monitor will cost me 1 mana. Tormod Script doesn't stop the combo, since I can just sack the spawn tokens. Although Thought Monitor will also cost me a blue mana. Still gonna keep it. And then Thoughtcast, draw into it. Moxamber gives us another mana at least. So we're looking for Otawara. Can't afford to play another Unsealing first. And then even if we do find Otawara, it's possible it's not even good enough. But that's certainly our only hope. Alright, we found it. That's great. Got another Moxamber to keep it up. I believe, although let's see, I guess it doesn't get a discount from Planeswalkers. But I haven't played Land for turn yet, so that's fine. So I could also play an Emery, although we're down to 13 cards. So I have to be somewhat careful here. Alright, so 7 cards remain. Tamio can plus. And we can attack with some of our 4/4s. And then what are we bouncing with Otawara? The timing has to be spot on. So this says when you cast a colorless spell, if I were to bounce Flash Raker, our opponent can still replay it. Play Brute Scale, make a token, and then with the land, I believe they can still go off. So I guess we're waiting for them to equip Soul Cleaver, and then we bounce Brute Scale, and then hope that's good enough. So keep 7. Otawara's the only one that matters. Could have definitely played out more random Ornithopters. Alright, there's a Brute Scale. Make a token. Spend 2 mana to equip. We bounce, and then they don't have the mana to replay and re-equip. So another trigger resolves. Bounce. And hope that's good enough. So their opponent can still cast it thanks to Chromatic Star, have 1 token left, but they need 2. Another Chromatic Star doesn't make a difference, that's just replacing itself. If they have a free artifact, then they can still combo maybe. There's a brute scale. Make 1 token, but they need 2 in order to equip. Chromatic Star to cycle. Alright, so this is it. Ooh, a land, but yeah. They need it to equip and still have a leftover thing to sacrifice. What does Ghost Lantern do? Equips for 1 mana. And then, yeah, it's similar to the Soul Cleaver. So they're just 1 single token away from comboing off. That's lucky. Alright, let's turn the team sideways. And our opponent explodes, so by the thinnest of margins, our only interaction was just good enough. So we get to see our updated version of monoblue affinity in action, and definitely not the most powerful deck in the format, but it is one of the more impressive ones once we start going off, drawing cards, making construct tokens, and then hopefully we've got just enough interaction to get by in some of the matchups, but that's also something you can tinker with. Adding cards like Pithing Needle can shut down activated abilities while still being a cheap artifact for affinity, and then if you're maybe playing in best of 3, you could also have some counter spells like Metallic Rebuke in the sideboard, so those are also ways to maybe help out against other combo decks. But of course it is important that you still have that critical mass of artifacts for the deck to function. So yeah, that's going to do it for today's gameplay. Want to thank you for watching, hope you enjoyed, and as always, have a nice day.